Hello everyone, and welcome to my latest video on the channel. My name is Orobot ASMR. I hope this video finds you well. Tonight, I decided to do a little something a bit different from my usual shtick of Transformers, because this channel aims to capture or go over a lot of media that I enjoy besides Transformers, all different manner of stuff. And tonight, I have decided to go with one of my favourite games. And maybe some of you folks at home will know what I'm talking about. I present to you Dead Island for the Xbox 360. Now this game released in 2011 and was developed and published by Techland and Deep Silver. So first, let's just take a look at the cover. I'm going to try and angle the camera a bit better so it doesn't shine. There's guerrilla filmmaking here, folks. I've got this hooked up to a little tripod stand, but we'll take a look at the box art. And just fantastic box art. I remember when I was a young boy, about 12 maybe? I would go into my local Extravision, which was literally right outside my primary school growing up, so I always got to pass by and see all the latest releases and all different manner of awesome games, and Dead Island, as well as Dead Space, Condemned, Criminal Origins. All those games just really stuck out to me. This one in particular, I always remember loving this zombie at the front, the way he's on his knees. It's like he's striking some kind of pose or something like that. You can see all the other zombies in the back, storm going on, the sickly, stormy look. It almost looks like dusk, but the storm's popping out, and that logo as well. I love the Dead Island logo. It's this lovely looking palm tree with the little seagulls, but then you look down and there's a horrific sight of a man having hung himself, forming the eye an island, which for folks living in America or other regions, the insignia here was actually changed to be a standing zombie, but me personally, I think this logo is just better overall because it really, pardon me, had some cereal there, I'm a little bit congested, but in different regions the logo was a standing zombie instead of the hanging man, which I personally think the hanging man just fits the game way better, way better. Just that feeling of persistent hopelessness, and the tone of this game really feels like they're going for a more serious kind of zombie story. But let's flip it over on the spine there. Dead Island, Xbox 360, PAL region, because yeah, that's just where we are. The tropical island of Benoi has been struck by a relentless zombie outbreak, and you're caught in the midst of it. Survive the terror, explore the mystery, and maybe you will make it out of paradise alive. I imagine like an evil voice reading that, and I just rolled with it. Adrenaline-fueled first-person combat. Craft your own weapons into ultimate zombie-killing tools. Fight with friends in a seamless 4-player co-op experience. That's one thing I've never really gotten to try in this game because I don't really play co-op often, but I would love for a friend or just even to play co-op Dead Island with my brother, because he absolutely loves Dead Island and we both love it too. It's one of our favourite games that we always take the time to play. You've just got your standard legal guff here, but this video, well, yes, we're not just going to talk about the game itself, but we're also going to talk more about my personal experiences with the game. So let me just get everything set up real quick. Now, Dead Island was a game that I played semi-recently. I'd like to think, wait, I tell a lie, I actually got the game back in 2020. I was looking for some games, I was going through a bit of a downer patch in my life at the time, and I figured, you know what, I might as well treat myself to some games. Besides, they're not that expensive second hand, and you might as well treat yourself if you're feeling down in the dumps. You know, self-care. And for me, self-care just happened to be buying a bunch of old video games, so yeah, make it that what you will. But anyway, back in 2020 when I first got the game, I didn't know much about it. All I knew was that the trailer was extremely controversial and some people were disappointed with the game. But after playing it, I have to say that I think it's nowhere near as bad as people say it is. On the contrary, I think it is actually a really good game. And one of the best things about Dead Island for me is the setting, hence the name, Dead Island. You're on an island, a beautiful tropical island, where it's broken up into several different zones. You've got the resort, pickups, the city, then you have the jungle, and if I remember, yes, there is a prison towards the end of the game, though that's a more closed off kind of area, but the resort has to be my favourite area because it's not a setting you see very often in games like this. It's a more open-ended RPG kind of game with first-person melee combat and gunplay. But I think the best thing about Dead Island, besides its setting, has to be the combat. It's very simple in terms of how it's presented, but you really have a lot of options, different weapon types, one's for breaking bones, one's for maiming enemy limbs, some for knocking them down like massive hammers. You have broadswords, guns, machetes, hammers, planks, paddles, all manner of awesome weapons you can use, and not only that, you can modify them too. If you collect pieces of equipment and scrap lying around the island, you can actually modify and enhance your weapons. Doing so, you can create all manner of awesome status effects, like an electric weapon, or one that burns enemies with a smack. You can make a hammer with a bleeding attachment to it. You can make a baseball bat, like a flaming baseball bat. It's all manner of awesome ways to spice up your weapons. And in regards to the gameplay, more on that, you get to choose from 4 unique playable characters with their own backstories, their own skills, personalities, and different proficiencies. For instance, you have Logan, who's one of my favourite characters. Not so much for his personality, he's actually quite a horrible person at first, but he grows into a better person by the end of the game. Though Riptide, the sort of standalone expansion, definitely shows more of his, I would say, lighter side, but more of his kind self. But Logan is an ex-All-Pro quarterback who got into a car accident and ended up shattering his leg in 6 places and costing a passenger her life, and as a result his football career basically went down the drain, and now he's, well, I'd say like he represents a lot of people in the entertainment industry, but that's not a very nice thing to think about, isn't it? But Logan is a throwing expert, so throwing weapons, like if you use the triggers, you can then aim your weapon and throw it at enemies for extra damage. And Logan especially has a Fury ability which directly relates to throwing, where he unleashes a flurry of throwing knives that just perforate anything they come in contact with. And it makes clearing out whole hordes of zombies an absolute cinch. But for my first playthrough way back when I first got the game, I went with Sam B. Because Sam B has a really interesting backstory, and he created arguably one of my favourite songs in gaming, Hoodoo Voodoo, which he sang at the beginning of the game. There's this terrific opening cutscene where you have pardon, my throat's a bit clear. It's quite late at night when I'm recording this, but it's worth it. I get to talk about my favourite games in a nice relaxing way and just share my experiences and share my thoughts, these awesome games, with you folks out there. more so on Sam B. I picked him because he's a blunt weapon expert, and naturally, you're going to find a lot of blunt weapons around in a zombie apocalypse. And Sam has some incredible skills that increases proficiency with these weapons, and even has some support-based skills which allow him to regenerate health. During my first playthrough, I relied heavily on those skills because I was not very good at the combat. Kept running in blindly like a headless chicken and then get my ass beat because of it. Ah well, you live and learn. And then when you finally get to grips with the game, all its mechanics, and then you master it, it just becomes a zombie slaying rip-roaring great time, let me tell you. Especially if you bring friends over. But going on to the story of the game, it's not the most intricate or complex story. It's nowhere near the same level as a thought-provoking tale like Gears of War or Mass Effect or even The Last of Us. It's a lot more of a simple survive and escape the island kind of story. And towards or through the game, you first wake up in a hotel room which is under siege by the undead. And then after the fact, you get rescued by a lifeguard, voiced by Steve Blum. Absolute mad lad, if you ask me. Steve Blum's a phenomenal voice actor, but he saves your life and basically sends you on a couple of errands to help provide for his group. And after a couple of missions, you get sent out to a hotel to collect some resources as well as a armored truck you can modify to take you into the city. You arrive in the city and the quest structure follows a similar sort of pattern. There's a couple of go here and grab this kind of missions, but it's more so the combat that spices these up, because some of the objectives, they're not that grand. They're just simple, go here, get this, kill this, but it's never boring, in my opinion at least. Dead Island always has interesting enemies, and you'll always be finding new weapons and goodies to keep playing. But through the city portion of the game, you end up arriving in a church where a bunch of survivors are gathered up, and you're basically recruited by the mother of the church, or the priest, I think she is. I don't know, don't quote me on that. But after that, you end up going to the jungle, which is one of the harder areas of the game, I would say, packed to the gills with disgusting variants of the zombies. You've got all manner of zombies as well to go around with. You've got your standard walkers. You've got these 28 days later running zombies called infected. You have the butchers, which are these terrifying, shrieky, banshee-looking monsters, where their arms have been whittled down to stumps of their own bone, because they keep like slashing at people and gutting them and everything. It's terrifying looking. You've got the Ram, which are mental patients that have been restrained and assumedly got infected either before or after being restrained in a straitjacket. They're quite difficult to take down because you have to hit the weak spot in the back, otherwise you'd be doing negligible damage at best. Depending precisely a single point of damage, so not going to be getting anywhere there, that's for sure. Dead Island keeps the basic enemy types throughout the game. There's a few more, but I'll have to jog my memory on that. Besides, I haven't got a script with me, but I feel like it doesn't. These kinds of videos, they don't need a script, because after all, if you're watching this to relax, or even just have something in the background to listen to, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you get something good out of it. After all, I have fun making these videos, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. If it makes folks happy, that's great. And if it makes you happy, that's even better, because it works out for everyone. But finishing up this discussion, I would like to also go into some of the history of this game in particular, because I think it was announced way back in 2006, 2008 maybe. It was an old build. You could see barely any footage or picture of it existed, save for a few short clips, which made it look almost like Far Cry, but with zombies. And then in 2009, if I recall correctly. That infamous trailer with the wee girl ended up becoming famous for well, collectively breaking the internet's heart into a million pieces, which I have to say, as someone who studied film and adores emotional draws in movies and games, that trailer is fantastic. The tone, the atmosphere, the music, it's absolutely heart-wrenching. You see, in just the span of a few short minutes, a simple family, just two parents and their child, being destroyed by this zombie plague in reverse, and the trailer ends with this heartbreaking shot of the dad reaching out for his daughter's hand. I'm getting my words mixed up. It's late at night. You can probably tell from the way I'm just rattling on. Oh, keep it together, old chum. Keep it together. But back on track, I think that when it came to trailers, Dead Island really set a precedent for game trailers, because if you had a emotional trailer like that one that got the whole internet talking about it, you're definitely getting a lot of people on board with your game. And Dead Island in particular, I think, really benefited from that trailer, even though it didn't really have anything to do with the finished game when it actually came out. But overall, this is a game that I have a lot of extremely fond memories with, and I look forward to talking more about it in future, or even doing a let's play at some point down the line. I would just need to figure out how to set up so I can record my TV, since I don't have a capture card or anything for my 360. But baby steps. For now, I'm fine just talking about all my different favourite games, movies, books, and doing little toy reviews. So, to close this off, I would like to give a shout out, a special thanks to a good friend of mine, Alakazam ASMR. I've been watching his content for about a little over 3 years at this point, and because he's a fantastic guy, just all round, super chill, very friendly, and extremely knowledgeable about different games and media, especially Transformers. He's quite a big fan. A man after my own heart, if you ask me. But Alakazam, this goes out to you. I hope you're doing well. And with that, I will close out this video. Thank you for listening to my little ramble about Dead Island. This is the Orabot ASMR, signing off till all are one.